What's going on, my martial arts nerds? Welcome back to System Breakdowns. As always, I'm Greg Koval, and today we're talking about Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Really interesting case study. Guy who plays to his strengths. You know, he's got that, what I often define as that weird little body, where it's a former heavyweight who's now a featherweight, who has these giant thighs, and even though he's shorter than just about everybody else, he has this reach that's just as long, if not longer, than everybody else in the division. It's weird. But he plays to his strengths, and he uses it well. And what I really want to do is talk about some of the things that you should be building into your own game, particularly when you start talking about things like his feinting, his movement, his ability to trap and set things up. This guy has an excellent striking system, and it's very systematic in his approach, and you can really see a lot of that stuff that he pulls from that city kickboxing camp. A lot of things that you see him do are the same things that you see guys like Israel Adesanya, Dan Hooker, Kai Kara-France. Like that camp produces really fantastic strikers. And you see a lot of the things that makes those strikers fantastic in Alexander Volkanovski. And we're going to talk about all that stuff today. So that being said, stay tuned and let's start breaking down Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Okay, guys, so let's start by talking about the striking of Volkanovski, which I find very interesting. It's what we're going to probably spend most of our time on today. And what's interesting is the principles of striking videos that I made. A lot of that stuff you're going to hear me refer to in here because he is like the master at putting these things together and interweaving these principles that I talk about. So his fundamentals and his ability to apply them are phenomenal. And you're going to see feinting principle, top position principle, trapping, projected intention, opportunism principle, built-in defenses, all these things that we talk about in this series is at play all the time for this guy. And his ability to weave between these things and use them as threats is masterful. So let me explain a little bit about how this works. So to begin with, the basic things you're going to see out of him is a lot of switching. And he has two different types of switching he does. One is a clear stance switch from the outside where he's going to work from here a little bit. And then the other thing you're going to see is as he blitzes in, you're going to see a lot of this karate style blitz where it's not uncommon to see him do what like Peter Yan does, where to cover distance, you're going to start seeing him stance switch in the middle of his attacks to be able to cover that distance. Very similar to what you see out of like Yuri Prohaska, where he does a lot of that type of stuff, where it's blitzing by changing stance to cover more ground than you would if you were just sliding forward. So, two definitive ways that he will do stance switching. A lot of his defense is based on the idea of staying on the outside of range, blitzing in, and then working in circular movement to stay away from them, forcing them into a range that he can always control. He is always in control of the range. That is a really important aspect to his game and his defense. Combined with that, he has a lot of built-in defenses, so anytime he jabs, you're going to see this hand coming up, ready to absorb anything coming back at him. That's a very common thing you'll see out of him is anytime he attacks, pop. Then on top of that, you'll see a lot of stuff like shelling up as they move in. That type of stuff is really common. But you'll also see him do a lot of disrupting techniques as they start to enter. And this is where we start talking about leg kicks. And what's interesting to me is he leg kicks successfully in three different ways. And if you notice, he very rarely gets his leg kicks checked, and he very rarely has any concern of reprisals through checking because of the way that he throws his leg kicks. So the first one is from a defensive standpoint, which is why I bring it up here. As he moves back, when guys enter into range, he leg kicks them. A lot of his leg kicks are based on movement. In order to successfully leg check, you kind of have to be planted here. It's hard to move in on a strike and successfully check a kick. And this is what he does. He moves out of range, and as they come in, pop, he kicks the inside of the leg so that he can freely attack them while they're in movement, okay? So that way they cannot check. He will also do this as he backs them up. So as he throws these blitz attacks like we talked about with the stance switching, pop, pop, as they're moving back, he'll add in leg kicks, right? Jab, attack the leg. So that as they're moving back, once again, same principle as when they're moving in, they can't plant and check because they're moving back and they get checked. He did this a lot to Max Holloway. When he fought Holloway, it was a lot of this type of stuff. The third way is through his use of feinting. He's going to constantly be attacking through feints, and by using projected intention, you're going to see a lot of stuff like here, feint the jab, and attack the leg kick. So when it's like setting up a takedown. Like if I want to shoot a takedown and I don't want them to sprawl on me, I might come up high. So if I'm doing a proactive shot, I might feint and then shoot on them. It's a lot of that same type of stuff where he's going to come in here and attack that leg because he's done something to set up that technique. So those are the 3 different ways that he's going to attack the leg. Now, staying on the defensive side of this, this is a really important part of what he does, because if you're going to be an inside fighter, this blitz style fighter, like a point fighter, which is basically what he does, you have to be in control of the range, meaning that as they enter in, you have to be a threat to them. So what he does is a couple different things. First of all, as they enter in, like I said, he attacks that leg. He'll lean back and kick that leg. That's a common strategy of his. Another thing that he'll do is he'll slip his head off the line and start throwing overhands and stuff like that. But the third thing that I like that he does a lot is a lot of shell and counter. This is very similar to what we talked about. I just did a pre-fight analysis of Vicente Luque. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend it. And what he does is he absorbs with this high guard, very similar to what Peter Yan does and Vicente Luque. He absorbs, and then for every shot you throw at him, he makes you eat 1 or 2. So he will attack from the outside by feinting and picking you apart. We'll talk about that momentarily. But then when you attack on him, it's pop, pop, right? A lot of what he likes to do is this lead hook. And I think he does it for the same reason that Joe Frazier did it to Ali. A lot of times when he attacks guys, because he's short, he has to cover this distance, so he throws that lead hook a lot. So what you'll see a lot is he'll be on the outside, they'll throw, he's going to absorb into his lead hook. You'll also see him do stuff like absorb cross hook, right? That type of stuff. He really likes to make you eat 2 to 3 for every shot that you give him. Then he does offensive attacks. So basically what you're doing is piling up these attacks, where I attack from the outside, I throw an attack. I attack, pop, pop. And then when you attack me, pop, pop, pop. So you very rarely land on him, but then he lands a lot on you. That's kind of the principle of his defensive system. And because he maintains an outside range, it allows him to do this because it allows him to read them. If you start pressing forward a lot, he will circle the outside and reset, and then come in here as you throw, pop, pop. Or he comes out, he works outside, you come in, he attacks that leg. That type of stuff is really common to his defensive system, and it helps him to maintain the range, which helps him to better defend himself. Because as he defends the range, it allows him to read better. And that's essentially what he does to pick you apart from there. Now, then you start getting in the offensive side. And this is where the fun starts. This you start talking about trapping, feinting, projected intention, top position, all that. So, feinting. This is something you'll see a lot out of the city kickboxing guys. You'll see a couple of primary feints that he does. One is a lot of the hip feinting. This is part of the reason he attacks the leg so much. Not only is it the opportunism principle where I can attack you without a lot of fear of reprisal. You know, I can just sit here, pick you apart as you come in. When you can't defend that a lot, it's easy for me to pick you apart with that. But then on top of that, now he's created this serious threat that you have to address. And as you're doing so, he's going to start feinting it to make you bite on it. And what basically happens is, if you bite on it and you start to respond to it, okay, he goes up here, right? And he starts attacking somewhere else. If you ignore it, he continues through the attack. And you're going to see that as a common trend in all of his attacking. He does the same thing when he starts feinting up high, right? He does, high feint to the jab. He starts moving these hands a lot, dropping his shoulder, looking up high, feint the jab, leg kick. See a lot of that type of stuff. You also see it in reverse, where he'll be up here and he'll start to look down and project his intention down. He'll jab and look down so that you start thinking about that cross and then come back up to the cross. So he feints the jab, looks down, gets you thinking about it, and as you start thinking about the leg kick, he comes up with the cross. Or pop, projected intention. Added into this, you start talking about top position trapping. So this is kind of the same thing. He did this a lot to Brian Ortega, where he came out here and he starts putting his hand on top of theirs. He does this to clear a lane. It's very similar to what you see out of Max Holloway. Max Holloway likes a lot of this lane clearing. And you come up here and jab. As he starts clearing the lane, he'd step out and throw this big cross. One of the things he likes to do a lot, particularly against guys who like to hold their ground, he did this to Jose Aldo a lot, is he likes to step out on the punch. He's a big movement striker. When he attacks forward, if you back up a lot, you're going to see him doing a lot of forward movement. If you hold your ground, you're going to see him circle out and angle change. So that one of the advantages of this is when you're moving in your attack, it makes it harder to be countered. Especially since, like I said, he's very disciplined with his built-in defense, so it's this type of stuff. So he'll do stuff like trap, and come in and clear the lane for a cross. Now, if you start to reach out with him, he's going to do the same thing with the top position, where he's going to get on top and do this. Or he's going to start to use this, get on top, and a leg kick. This is you start seeing levels within wheels, right? So he starts feinting, looking down, pier. Coming on top, looking down, coming back up. Feinting, feint the jab, leg kick. Feint the leg kick, leg kick. Feint the leg kick, jab, right? Shell up. This is where you start getting levels within this stuff. And it's very interesting the way he ties it all together. And so then you start adding in stuff where like he starts building plans around his opponent. You know, Jose Aldo is a lot of hold your ground and slip. So he went to the outside, threw his jab, and every time he slipped, he'd foul with a cross, that type of stuff. Very, very intricate stuff. As far as blitzing, a couple things he likes to do. This is where I said you'll see him do a lot of stepping in on his attacks, where he'll do stuff like throw the cross, step into a hook. That's one of his favorite ones. He'll come in here, jab, or cross to a hook this way. Jab to a hook, right? A lot of this leaping type of stuff. If you start backing up, he'll start chasing you. You know, pop, pop, that type of stuff. Or he'll finish stuff with throwing that leg kick to cover range, which is always a successful tactic. Countering, like I said, a lot of it, what he likes to do is shell in here as you start to throw. A lot of his favorite counters from here is shell up to a hook, or you throw shell up, cross to the hook, or shell up, and if you start to back up, he throws his cross, jab, cross. And what he does is he uses the cross to punch a hole. He shells up, crosses to punch a hole, throws a jab as a quick follow-up, and then as you're backing away, continues in a lot of times with another cross. So it becomes like, pow, pow, pow. And he covers a lot of range with this. And what basically happens with his system overall is he starts creating this ebb and flow. He gets to the outside, he circles out. As you come in, leg kick. As you come in, pow, pow, pow. Right? And he comes in here, feints, right? Feints, feints, traps, circles the outside, and this becomes a very effective system so that as you move in on him, you absorb shots. You run the risk of absorb and eating 2 shots for every shot you attack him with. From the outside, he feints, picks you apart, gets top hand position, and just starts playing with your head. And he could just do this all day long. If you try to run away, he chases you. He's got the techniques to do so. If you hold your ground, no problem. He circles out instead, and then he resets. No matter where you are with this guy, you're screwed. And eventually what he's going to do is he's going to start using these techniques to back you into his cage. And once you get back to the cage, then you start talking about his wrestling system. And that's what we're going to come back to, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk about the wrestling and jiu-jitsu of Volkanovski. Now, first of all, from a wrestling prevention standpoint, I want to say that one of the nice things about an in-and-out style striking system is there's a lot of built-in wrestling prevention. Guys have a hard time shooting on him because he fights from so much of an outside range, and when they do come in, he's always ready to circle out or move back out of range. It gives him a lot of response time. Just like he does with the striking, right? He's on the outside. He has a lot of response time for takedowns as well to move out of there. Makes it hard to be proactive in your shooting. When he does attack, because he's either attacking you while you're on your heels, he's attacking you as a counter as you move in, or he's going to circle up. Those are all kind of hard to do reactive shots on. And when you add that into the fact that he does so much feinting and stuff like that, it's hard to read the timing on it. It's very difficult to be able to do shooting on him. So his takedown defense is fantastic because it's mostly wrestling prevention, which is what I personally favor. It's good to have a sprawl. It's better to not give them opportunities to shoot. Now, for his own takedowns, yes, he does sometimes hit takedowns in the center of the ring, you know, coming in here, his outside stuff. But mostly what you're going to see is him putting guys up against the cage because of his blitz style, right? As he moves in, he backs him up to the cage. He might throw jabs to get him in here, and then he goes to the double leg. Now, this is where you start getting into his chain wrestling, and basically, his first goal is to try to get the double leg. If you can pull in your legs and complete the double leg, obviously that's ideal. That's what he wants to go for. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Now, from there, he usually likes to try to chain wrestle from here. So if he goes to the double leg and he doesn't have it, He transitions outside, and he goes for the single leg, right? He splits your leg, he comes in here, head on the inside, and he starts getting your single leg. From right here, as you start defending the single leg, he starts coming in here, trying to take the back, right? So he's constantly bouncing from position to position, and this is one of his strengths that I think is an area where he's superior over a lot of his division, where he's able to very successfully move on to the next technique and bounce between single leg, double leg, outside trip, and taking the back. So those four things, he works in tandem. Bum, 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 bum. And as you defend one, he's ready for the next. So, he knows a lot of the common strategies. You go for that. They might overhook and try to do like framing on the head. So he goes, okay, I go to the single leg. So now that they're turned away, maybe they start to defend. He comes up and he takes the back, breaks him down, etc., etc. If he gets here and he feels like he can't get anything, sometimes this happens. No matter, he's trying to transition or he doesn't feel like he can, no problem. He's going to abandon, step up with a spinning elbow, reset, and then he immediately attacks again. So right when you think you're free of this, he resets with the spinning elbow. He has a very high success rate on catching guys with this. This is a very common tactic, by the way. And then he resets, and he's right back in. He might even give you a quick pause so you think you're back into striking, and then he goes back to it. So it's a lot of chain wrestling. If he doesn't get it, spinning elbow, reset, and go right back to it. So that just when you think you're done with this guy, he's back in there. He's like a dog with a bone. Once he gets you against the cage, he's going to finish. And this is where his body size works in his favor. He's already a shorter guy with these powerful legs. So when he gets in here, man, it's really tough to stop this guy because he's already so powerful from here. He's already so low. His legs are so strong with so much drive. And if you defend, he goes on to the next technique. If you defend, he catches you, resets, and he's back in there. It's a very tough system to beat, and he's really, really practiced at hitting this. So it's excellent. I mean, he has a lot of success. He breaks guys down, and then what you're going to see is when he gets on the ground, very rarely you see him on the bottom, like you did with Brian Ortega. Let's talk about that real quick. I think he's one of those guys. There's some guys that have really shallow arteries. They're very tough to choke. I think he's one of those guys. And on top of that, he's just a very tough guy who's patient. With Ortega, he got the guillotine, he got the triangle. I remember watching that fight going, oh, he's done. Ortega's got him. Holy crap. And he's like, nah. He was just like, I'm too tough for this. I don't care. He's patient. He gets his defense, gets his head free. Gets the triangle. Okay, no problem. Same thing. So it's very tough to submit this guy. If you do happen to get on top of him, which doesn't happen very often, you're going to see him go to his knees and get up, standard stuff. But he doesn't seem to have a lot of problems with that because at those lighter divisions, if you can create a lot of scrambles, it's very tough to hold guys, and he's very good at that. Now, from the top, this is where he has a cool style. A lot of times he'll land on top of guys in like a half guard here and stuff like that. And what you're going to see is he gets a lot of head under the chin position. Then he's going to get his feet up in triangle. He's throwing bombs. Then he's going to come up, and most of what he does from here is he likes to do leg drags and stacking. So you're going to see this leg get pulled across, coming in here, and start throwing bombs. He does the same thing from like an open guard and stuff like that. He steps in, stacks, get these legs high, pulls them across, drops bombs. This is his go-to. Leg drag and stack. Bring the legs across, KO. Very, very effective stuff. And what I like is the simplicity of his system makes it very effective. And because so few guys actually take him down, and because most of his game is based on the idea of standing over his opponent, he doesn't run a lot of risk of getting put on bottom. You very rarely see this guy on bottom because from the outside, his wrestling prevention's really good. When he does take you guys down, when he takes guys down, they have a really hard time reversing him because he's standing over him, right? He's going to start breaking him down and throwing bombs. Even from here, like half guard, right? He's here getting his head underneath, standing up, stacking. He doesn't give them opportunities to reverse to a better position. The best they can hope for is getting back to their feet, in which case, no problem. He's back to his game. So it gives him some pretty significant advantages. But overall, look, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Alexander the Great Volkanovski. I'd love to hear your comments below. Let me know what you think. Look, man, watch some of this guy's fights. This is a guy that, honestly, when I first started watching, I didn't get him. I really didn't. I was like, it just seems like he's in and out, doing a lot of jab cross, a lot of leg kicks. Okay, that's cool. But as I started watching the nuances of the feinting, the projected intention, the leg kicks, right? The timing on the leg kicks, the feinting, like the movement, all this stuff. I got really impressed by his discipline and nuance. And that's what I hope you pick up from it and are able to employ in your own system. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you share with your friends and subscribe. Hey guys, for those of you who are interested in getting some merch, I now have a store available on my website. It's devilldogmartialarts.com. Not only can you get the new Devil Dog shirt, but you can get some of the other shirts that you've seen me wear on here for the Koval Taekwondo, the old school OG shirts. They're $35, continental US only. But go to devilldogmartialarts.com, go to the store, and check it out today. There's also a bunch of great stuff on the website that's exclusive to the website that I think you guys will enjoy. Thanks, guys.